Let's introduce today's speaker. It's our great honor that today we have Mr. Nasser Hosseini. He has more than 15 years experience of modeling and numerical simulation of conventional and non-conventional reservoirs in the US, Middle East, and Africa. He has significant experience in production and optimization of the different lift type, such as beam wells, ESP, gas lift, and plunger wells. Currently, he is actively looking for new opportunities. I would like to thank Mr. Hosseini for accepting our invitation, and without further delay, I'm transferring microphone to him for starting his presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I hope all of you are doing well, especially in these days, and really appreciate from Mrs. Samui for kind introduction. And I really appreciate all of you for participating in this presentation. I hope this presentation could be helpful. This is one of my experience in almost last 2 decades of working in the petroleum industry. As you know, and announced before, we are talking about the new methods to finding the best and saving the man overtime through the petroleum industry. So for all industry, what is the main goal? What is the main purpose? The main purpose is to increase income, increase money, and earning more money. So this is a very simple equation. Increase input and decrease output. For improving the benefits for oil industry, we need to improve and boost production, increase the production. No doubt that there is some other aspects, but as a brief, just increasing the production, we will have more oil and more money. And also we can use the new technology. New technology could be a smart completion, it could be a smart controller, it could be hardware, or it could be software, purchasing some optimizer software such as Lewis, Foresight, Signet, or other optimizer software in the market. But technology has another aspect. Another aspect is technology you have to purchase, you have to pay some money. And for maintenance, it could be hardware or software for both of them. Purchasing the technology and maintenance, we need to pay money. And for software, we need to pay for training. Also, for reducing the cost, we have to avoid from all factors that impact the downtime and the cost to well stopped. And the other thing that we need to do is taking about the personnel. The personnel is another item that we need to spend some money. For personnel, we can have some techniques to can improve the cost for personnel. We can give some facilities to personnel to increase the accuracy in order to achieve their task in shorter time. So in one word, in one statement, we can increase the personnel productivity. No doubt, these equations and this statement, we have a lot of items in both sides, in input and output, and we need to discuss more about in details. But in this presentation, I don't want to focus on the both production, technology, and other aspects, and maybe we can find more items and they could be more important. But I wanted to share my experience to facilities that can increase the accuracy of the team in order to achieve their task in shorter time. So for most of the time, actually I work as a consulting most of the time, but it's not only for consulting. All of us involved with a lot of information, and we need a data inventory. We have a lot of information from different sources, and this information has a various classification methods. As actually, for example, one owner company have some test that achieved by some service company, Halliburton or Schellenberger, and they store some information based on their standards and submit to the clients, and different other sources, different classification. And one solution is that using the Windows, right-click, new folder, store some information in the some files and some folders, and then we can classify. But the problem is that in folders, we have only a file name, and we don't have this ability to assign more tags and more information or more comments for each file. The other solution is to purchasing a software. But software, we have to purchase cost, we have to pay some money, so cost, and for training. So the training could be time consuming, maybe could not be good, and maybe we cannot find all our goals from this software, because this software is very general and could not be specified with our issues. In this case, I recommended to my manager, actually, in my experience, I switched from one company to another company, but I suggest to my manager, I can develop one macro code. It has a search engine, and it can store all files in the one Excel file with a hyperlink ability in folder and file. So user can open the file and access to the files or folders directly from here. The main problem and the difference from the folder and search engine in the Windows and this Excel file is usually the file that we have are stored in the shared drive. When we wanted to try to search in the shared drive, when we have about 20,000 records or more than this in the shared drive, it takes about 15 to 30 minutes if we don't have any crash. Sometimes the Windows crash through the searching, and because the file is huge, the number of files is too much and too many, sorry, and they are stored in the network. Maybe the network connection lost, and so the search stopped. But this Excel sheet could be very helpful. The other thing, when we put this file in the shared drive, all of my coworkers put their comments and observations in another columns. Then when we came back to this file, we found their observation very fast, and we save a lot of time when we work on these files. For the next step, we needed to digitize these files. So we need one data repository system. For data repository system, we had a lot of records from different sources, and no doubt the one person cannot do that. So whole team supposed to work on this part. But what is another issue? At that time, we didn't have Office 365. We have a standalone Office. So in this case, we couldn't rely to the one file and one Excel file, for example, in order to digitize all files. And the other issue is the security level. We had different people in our team with different level of the security level. So in this case, we need to store the diversity of the well attributes. We need to all test, all events, all layers. We had a lot of information that related to the wells. Again, maybe we can purchase a software, but for software, we have some limitations such as the cost, training, and other issues. It is unstable. I'm not sure if you can see. So just let me know if you cannot see my screen. I recommend to my manager I can develop one Microsoft Access that can store all aspects that relate to entity and IT structure for all. Can you hear me?
Yes, now. Yes, now. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So,
Maybe we can start from maybe the last start with the.
oh, sorry, maybe my internet connection was low. So, have you seen this screen before?
Not the description, but just we saw the software cost and training. Yes, we can
Okay,
start
okay,
from here.
okay. So, for this one, I recommended to my manager, I can develop one Microsoft Access database. We can store the MDT, DST, core, and all aspects of the well inside that. And I put this one in the shared drive, and I assign the security level for each member based on this location and their rules. So this database had very strong structure, and they can have all aspects of the wells report related to the core, layer, sub-layer, or summary, or everything is stored in this database. The next experience that I have, we needed to interpret unconventional petrophysical logs. At that time, based on our limitation, well, we needed to first interpret the whole logs as a conventional and store in one LAS file. In the next step, just interpret the interval layer, unconventional interval layer as an unconventional as a different file, so user could open these files in the text editor and using the copy and paste technique and merge this and integrated in one whole LAS file. But we had more issues. We have different channel orders, different channel names, and new channels. For example, if in master file we have a porosity as PHI, maybe we had poro and one LAS file in the interval, one interval, unconventional interval, and porosity in another interval. And also, as you know, in the unconventional, we had some channels such as clay that we don't have in the conventional parts. So in this case, so in the integrated, we have the null value for this channel, and for interval of unconventional, we have to related clay. Using the VSTO, again, software cost and training actually does not work. So before going to the next slide, I need to say, if we wanted to do this one manually, it takes about 40 hours. If we wanted to do in the text editor, Excel, copy, paste, we have to, for example, we have about 20,000 rows of the file. Every 5 feet, we have a one value per depth. And so assigning the channel together, regardless of the accuracy, it takes a lot of time. But at that time, I recommended to my manager, I can develop a code in the VSTO, Visual Studio Tools for Office. And when the users install this software on their machine, they could find a new template on the Microsoft Excel. By opening this template, they can find a new ribbon, that in the ribbon, they can open the all logs. For example, here the user imported the master file and then 3 interval unconventional. In the next step, the software figure out which channels are measured, which channel is a new, which channel is supposed to be replaced. But user can modify and tweak these options, and also based on the unconventional layer that imported first, software it was smart, so it can figure out which interval is unconventional. But user had this ability to put more details here, and also we had some cutoff values that user can modify this one, but we had some defaults. At the end of the day, not only it integrated all of these files together, but also it find the average values for each parameters for conventional part, tight part, and unconventional part based on the cutoff value that user imported. And they can export the one integrated LAS file. and user can send this data to the database. Whole of this process in the pessimistic situation takes about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But assume that if one person can do manually, regardless of the accuracy, it's supposed to be spent about 40 hours per log. So it's a very good time saving. The other thing that we need to do a lot, or most of us, we need to generate the files from different sources. For example, we have a lot of information in the different sources, and they want to generate a lot of nodal analysis files from Excel to the well flow, for example. Regardless of the time consuming, the accuracy is very important in this case. I developed a lot of macro code in this part, but I show just 2 of them. In well flow, when we wanted to, in using the ESP, we need to use the pump data from well flow catalog. There are some, as most of you using well flow, most of actually most of the pumps are available as a default, but this is in technology, and every day we will have a new pumps in the market. So Wellflow has this option. We can, it has some module to add one pump to the system, but it's a one by one, and each pump takes about 15 minutes to add to the system. But this one, by pressing only one click, just the most time consuming part is to transfer the data from other source using a copy and paste to this part. So just by pressing one click, we can transfer a lot of pumps just about 1 or 5 seconds, depending on how many records. For example, the last time that we tried, we had about 25, 26 records, but it takes about less than 5 seconds to transfer all of this to the system. And all of this, because using the Excel as a base, we don't need a lot of training. So because I teach my team, for all of them, I taught them. And so they learn very fast because it is Excel. And most of us, we need Excel. We know Excel. We can copy, paste, transfer data to Excel, cut the data from Excel. So it's a very good platform for these purposes. The other thing, again, for Wellflow, we had a bunch of the Wellflow files. So if we wanted to modify and figure out which file has which information, it takes a lot of time to open one by one each file. And sometimes the software, the Wellflow software or other software may be crashed. But by this macro, we transfer all information from source to the one spreadsheet. And we can assign each information, for example, gas lift data, ESP, plunger, rod, everything. We can assign every information to its own specific sheets. Then, if we want, we can modify some of them or bunch of them or only one of them, and we can update all of update our files. So it takes a lot of, it can save a lot of time again, and it's very easy to use. After very small mentoring, all members can do could work with this very fast. The last one actually is for Petrel. One project that I had, it was very close to deadline, but the client asked us to simulate the model by multilateral. We modeled one lateral, one stage, one cluster, and whole lateral. But they asked us to model the simulation with the multilateral and finding the effect of the another lateral to the overproduction. As you know, the shell suite of the Petrel couldn't generate the LGR, more than one LGR in one IJ plate. So it was very close to deadline. I contacted the software Schellenberger support, and they said at this moment they are working on this issue, but unfortunately we didn't have enough time to wait for another release and figure out if it worked well or not. Based on my experience in Eclipse, I generated, for this case, I generated 3 different data files, and then I merged the include files together. But in this case is not only merging the include files. As you know, for each LGR, we need to rename the LGR because maybe we have duplicate LGR and then Eclipse could not assign this one. So we had to assign the new name for this LGR. When we had a new name, we needed to change all related keywords such as a comtat L or well-spec L. So all of them supposed to be fixed for these issues. So this not only one case. Just for this trilateral, I have only 16 sensitivity cases. Number of cluster, fracture conductivity, formation permeability, and there are a lot of sensitivities. So for this well, as I remember, they said us trilateral, two lateral, four lateral, two in this way, two and in another way. So we have a lot of cases we needed to generate a data file, integrated data file for all of this. Again, I used macro and Excel to transfer all information and merge all this information together and integrated a new data file. And fortunately, we could submit this project before the deadline by using this technique. So if we wanted to generate this one manually, it takes a lot of time, even for one case. We can assume we have a couple of wells, we have 16 scenarios for each case, two lateral, three lateral, or others. And all of this took a lot of time to simulate the models. But fortunately, for this technique, we could save a lot of time. And thank you for time. Thank you for your attention. I'm really happy if you have any question related to this technique using a coding in order to save the time and increase the accuracy for doing and achieving the task.
Thank you so much. This is a time for question. Please, if you have a question, write in the chat box.
Okay, one question, and actually I have three questions. What is the difference between VBA and another program language such as Python, R, or so on? Okay, as far as we are working on the Python or different sources, such as we are trying to read from data files, such as CSV or something like that, there is no a lot of difference between R, Python, or other or VBA. But VBA has very good and is very compatible with the Excel. So most of the time we have data in Excel. But for R or Python, for other language, we need another platform. To, for example, for Python, we need Atlas going to the Anaconda, I think so. Jupyter, sorry, Jupyter notebook. So this one, but for Excel, because we have VBA inside the Excel, is not necessary to really go into the another platform. And when we have all information in the Excel sheet, it's a tabular, it's very easy to read, it's very good to use. So we can do, this one is better. So my suggestion, my recommendation is using VBA when we have data in Excel, but Python and others are the same. So have you tried to compare? Yes, actually, in one project we needed to run the SQL statement. I using VBA and my coworker using Python. I generated the SQL statement based on the based on the other situation and criteria in the Excel, and run the Excel. I just using the Excel as a running platform, but the data was in the SQL server, and in the SQL Server they run over there. But when we compare, there is no any big difference for SQL Server. Can you explain more about VSTO? Okay, VSTO is one option of the Visual Studio. When you install the Visual Studio, you can active Visual Studio tools for Office. Then for this part, when you do that, you can develop your code in the Python, in C++, C#, Visual Studio, everything. And then you can trick all your macros in the Excel. So this one is almost a bridge between the coding and Microsoft Office, especially Microsoft Office. It's very compatible with Microsoft Office. It knows a lot of API code, API items in the Office. So it's very easy. So when you ask it, okay, I wanted to reach to this ribbon or wanted to reach to that template, all of these items are familiar with for VSTO. For other language, it's not very difficult, but for VSTO, Microsoft added more features as a default, so it's not necessary to predefine by ourselves. So there is another question: is this software coded publicly? Other users? Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, this software, first of all, is just developed by our data, and we couldn't publish this one as a commercial software to the market because of license issues, because of the company's policy and other issues. But this is the one in this presentation. I wanted to know we can public this information to the other members to do the same approach to saving the time and increase the accuracy. So what is the another question? Sorry.
No, I think you already answered to 4 questions that I
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, good. Thank you all. Thank you for participation. I hope this one can, this presentation could help you to find and you enjoy from my slides.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Hosseini, for your presentation, and all of you for taking part in this event. Just note that we have every Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Time a webinar on different topics in oil and gas with professionals. And the recorded version of the 2 days webinar will be available in the APPIH social networks by end of today. Thank you so much and have a great time.